Hey, hello everybody. We're live today on Thursday, the 24th of August, 2017. Thank you to everybody in the chat room, everybody watching. Hey, oh no, left my thing on. Got to do that. Whoops, sorry about that, guys. That's a good start. Anyway, we've got some guests coming on who are not here right now, but they'll be coming on. I just wanted to make a little bit of a statement from the other day because things turned a little bit awkward the other day on our hangout. And I just want to make this little statement. Sun and Moon are not here to bash anybody. We're here for the truth of the truth, not the truth of the lie. Okay? So just making that very clear to everybody. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say on that. We're here for the truth of the truth, not the truth of the lie. So, Judith, you had a question you wanted to ask Ceres.
Yes, good evening, everybody.
Hello, my darling.
I was listening to the next video and Ceres speak with Santos Bonacci about the black sun and about the result of the light at night. I'd like to hear more about this, Ceres. Thank you.
It's actually an idea from Chris that the sunlight itself is actually black light, and then we work with a crystal in where light is only going one direction, and out of the black sun, the actual sun of the sun we see is projected in a way, in a personal way, actually in our own perception, but as a reflection. And so far I figured with some demonstration video of how the beam of light actually is cut off with just something behind, between the beam and the projected part, in that there is no object to actually go in front of the object, obscuring the light, but something behind what is actually cutting off the energy of the light shining through in our own perception. But yeah, it's not really something we can test that in our own principles of how light can work in a small test. But yeah, if that is actually happening, is something else to figure out.
Santos said we can see the black sun.
And
we can see at night a black object.
Oh yeah. The idea was that when we are actually in the night, we see actually the black sun, or we are actually in the shadow of the black sun through this one directional crystalline. I forgot the word.
Yeah, I understand.
And the day side is when it just reflects back, and then we are actually not in seeing the real sun, but the projected sun of the reflected sun. And then you have to think about how black light just lights up particulars through this one directional stuff. All these directions and how that flows, it's still a bit messy in that sense that we don't have an actual model working so far in all the.
That's what I want to ask, if I can see a model of this. Yeah.
Certainly. Yeah. So far, I figured we have two different worlds to actually figure out. One is the sky, and the other is the land. And the land is just flat. It loops in one direction, and it loops probably also in the other one, but way bigger. Through I figured out the how the flower of life pattern or the grid actually of the flower of life works, it needs only one step of one square to actually repeat itself in east-west direction. But in north-south direction, it needs at least 13 steps through the grid to actually end up within exactly the square again. And yeah,
I've got a really good, well, it's not that maybe I haven't thought about it, but David Banner in the chat rooms put, we see the sun and the moon together in the sky all the time. So why don't we see the moon approach the sun when there's an eclipse?
Because it's not the moon eclipsing it. That's the whole thing. And then the fakery comes out that there is probably somehow there is a moon, but nobody sees a moon. But they see a moon. Yeah, repeatable science.
But this will be the first time that a lot of people would have actually been really thinking about it and being able to witness it. And then, of course, obviously, you've got people like Chris who've been really looking into it. There's no moon.
There's nothing in front of it. There's something in the back, actually.
There's something, but not that.
Cutting off the projection. You know, and the eclipse is proof of that the sun itself we see is probably a projection or a reflection, at least. It's just a question of what then.
It's black. Whatever it is, it's black light. It's just black light. It's just a black. It's just blackness.
It's just light we can't see, but when you actually split it up in the whole spectrum, we can see all the colors of it. It creates all the colors of. It creates a possibility that we see actually all the colors of the material around us. But that's because it's broken up through the crystal, of the crystal structure, of the nature of how that works.
Well, while we're waiting for people to come on, because they are coming on, just wondered, has anybody in the chat room got any questions to see if we can answer them? I mean, it's the first time, well, ever probably, that so many people have actually now realised it's not the moon. All the other times we'd have said, oh, look, there's the moon eclipse on the sun, and we'd have just believed what it was. But now we know it isn't, for sure.
Something eclipses the source of the sunlight.
I think those pictures that Chris saw when it was actually shining through the trees and you got hundreds of eclipses on the ground through the tree. That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. All the half moons through the tree. What the fuck? And you see actually.
No swearing, series. No swearing.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just astonished. Okay, you see.
Yeah, that was very strange seeing all the moons.
The eclipse itself underground, on the ground, through a single light spot, a single hole actually projected, something like it's inverted and then shine back. Through how we actually take a photograph, for example, you just take a can, put in a photo paper in it, put in a little hole, and then you shine it a few seconds, and then you close it, and then you develop it. That's a way to actually have one pinhole and then a photograph, and you get it upside down and inverted, etc. But then you turn it back.
Series, there's another question from Chow. He says, has anyone ever caught the unlit face of a gibbous moon in a photograph? No matter what the shutter speed, it never shows up for me.
I actually missed what was he saying?
Has anybody caught the gibbous moon in there?
What is a gibbous moon?
I can't spell probably. Yeah, the gib. Let me put it.
I see the words, but
G. Oh yeah, because you're in. I'll write it in the chat room. Hang on. I'll write it for series in the chat room because you might not know what it is because of language.
Yeah. On the Gibbs moon. What is a Gibbs moon?
See, we might have to go and look that one up. That's not good, is it, series?
I've never heard of the word.
Oh, here we go. Chris is here. He'll be able to explain it.
Uh-oh, what am I going to explain?
Hey.
Hello, Chris. How are you, my darling?
What is it?
Yeah. Good.
He goes, explain what this is. I'm sending it in the chat. Someone wants to know why you can't ever see that.
Why
The
you-
unlit face of the gibbous moon in a photograph, no matter what the shutter speed, he says this is Chow. He's never been able to capture it.
Oh,
Oh, because the moon is a flat object and it's actually on an angle, so there's no light reaching it because it's.
No, there you go then. That's your answer, Chow.
Yeah, the moon's a flat disk, and it's when it's angled, right? You can't get a picture of it because it's just there's no light there to capture because you're now looking, right? It's out of the horizon of it would be out of your frame of pictures. Yeah, it's like you can't get the other side of a football, right? If it's angled, it's not a sphere.
Chow says, haha, I'll take it.
I can prove it, but it's actually a hollow, flat, not entirely spherical object, and it's hollow.
I'm really pleased for you, Chris, that you've had such a good response to this bit. There is no moon.
Yeah, I got to check that. Hang on a second here. I wanted to see that because I was on a call there earlier and I didn't get a chance to go back to my page and see how that one was making out. Of course, I got hundreds of moon pictures coming in now too. That's good.
I know, that's really good. And we've had a really good response from the video. Obviously, I put out early this morning after our hangout. And I have put it in the chat room. We had a private hangout for various reasons. Someone wanted to speak to Santos last night. We had a private hangout with him, which most of it is actually on Sun and Moon now. And Santos is back next Thursday. So he's going to explain some more things. So that's good.
Yeah, 252 shares of that original post on Facebook there, just with the pictures. In my world, that's viral.
You must feel happy about that then.
Yeah, it's pretty good, yeah.
I think that most people, that is the question. There was no moon there.
Yeah. Now, if I could just get someone to share my music around like that when I post a tune or something. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I love your music. This man is multi-talented. He can hold the guitar like up at the end and then play it up at the end, holding his hand over the, what do you call it, the neck of the guitar, and then play further up.
Yeah.
He's amazing, Chris.
It's fun stuff. It's funny though what people will grab onto and share, right? It's you can never predict it. If we could actually predict what can go viral on the internet, obviously you'd have the keys to anything you wanted, I suppose. Yeah.
Marilyn wants to know something in the chat room. She said, Karen, what were those 4 dots August the 21st surrounding the moon? Did you see any dots surrounding the moon, Chris?
In a couple of videos I saw, maybe not 4. It depends on the type of camera too. I noticed that in 360 cameras there was more dots because it wraps the image of the sky, so you end up with a duplication of a refraction effect. There were a few, I think, depending where you were, you could see basically stars. There were 2 or 3 stars that appeared. One was actually flashing in one video. It flashed with a fairly good consistency. Yeah, so I would think that they would be. Let me see here if I screen share. I'll screen share here.
I don't know, Mike Helmet's put this bit in the chat room. He says, Chris and David are not 100% convinced the moon showed up. If the moon happened to show itself, it would cancel itself out 100% because the spot on the sun like a Pharaoh cell. You're saying the moon's not there. We're saying the moon isn't there at all.
No, I didn't see any evidence of it. No. But during the eclipse, I'm getting some feedback there.
It's series.
No, you.
It's naughty series.
Yeah, during the eclipse, I did see a few little lights show up, which would be, you know, one of these objects, probably Regulus or Mars or Venus, Mercury, if they were bright enough. Venus certainly would have been bright enough to appear, depending on where you were looking.
Aha, I've got a question for you. Patricia, come forward with what you were talking about before we went on air. I'll say that to Chris, because that's just what he's showing there, I think.
About what, sorry?
Your 360 camera with the object next to the sun. And I told Patricia that you thought that was probably a camera flare or going on. But she's saying that she's seen loads of people with that there. And it could have been then Venus.
I think it was a little bit lower down than that, but the thing that I was confused about is as you looked at the horizon, there was what looked like the sun. Because I was watching that on the video and I thought, I can't see anything, can't see the eclipse of anything, and everybody was like, woo, woo. And as I sort of scrolled round, I thought maybe I'm looking in the wrong place. So as I scrolled round to see where they were actually looking, they were looking up, and then when I scrolled up, the sun was up there. And then to the left of it, so the right of as you're viewing it, there was that little, it looked like the moon or something. And Martin Leakey put a thing on today, well, whenever he did it, saying that a lot of people are saying that there was a flare on the camera, but there's so many pictures with it's not exactly the same as what I saw on that one, but there was something to the right of the sun, and you know, nobody with the same camera would have exactly the same flare on it, and he was saying they're not flares, that it is something there. So, but I don't know, I mean, it's just that I technically saw three things in the sky. The sun at the horizon with the orange clouds, and then the sun above, which everyone was staring at, seeing the eclipse, which basically the sun was just getting smaller and smaller to me, and this other thing on the right hand side of where the sun was, or left if you were looking at the sun from the back. It was just so weird. Maybe Karen could share it and then to them 360s, can they?
No, you can on your phone a bit, but you can't. If I send it to Series, oh yeah, because then we need to see what's on the horizon. Series needs to be pointing at the horizon first of all. I just want to make a comment that Mike Helmick said, obviously, yeah, no moon, but he says he wants to know why NASA sprayed so much. Why do you reckon they did so many chemtrails that day, Chris or Series?
If you ask me, pretty predictable.
Because they didn't want anybody to see it, if they could help it.
Well, they're definitely hiding. Well, I think probably for more reasons, but one would be they were hiding, trying to hide, you know, what people could see and limit what people could see and get good solid photographs of and film and everything. It's obviously there was some intention there. You know, obviously they'd be hiding the facts to prevent people from seeing it with their own eyes. Yeah. And of course the
whole amount of live stream available was, yeah, purely their input only, and yeah.
Series, if I send you what Patricia sent me and see if we can all see it, because Patricia knows exactly where they are. So I know that Chris probably does. But let me just find it. Where are we? Oh, where's it gone? Oh, is it on Sun and Moon, Patricia? Is that where you put it? And it might be on... I'll just get it off Sun and Moon. Carry on talking while I go to Sun and Moon.
Yeah, that was the other thing as well. I mean, the video was put on, you know, the chemtrail group, Global Skywatch or whatever, and the people were filming it, clips, and the fact that the chemtrail goes right across the moon, the sun. Sorry, I get confused with sun and moon. I know it's silly, but anyway. And you just think, why have they done it just there? Whether it was just one street. Well, you see on the video anyway that you just think they're definitely trying to hide something.
Well, it's multifaceted with the chemtrails, like the the chemtrails that NASA's been using there from the research and white papers I found on it. They've been using it since the 1970s. It's full of barium, and barium is it's a man-made chemical, right? It doesn't occur in nature, but it's highly reactive to microwave radiation and magnetic fields. So if you're going to be studying electromagnetism and the ether and how all that is working out, right, and you need to map that, the primary use would be to use barium. So obviously during an eclipse event, if you fill the skies full of barium, then you could probably track the electromagnetic disturbances that occur during an eclipse and study it. So I mean, it would have scientific applications. And I know they also sprayed or had balloons up there that had bacteria. They were releasing bacteria to see how that would survive. So they were doing all kinds of crazy stuff during the eclipse, you know, tracking it with aircraft. And the barium is it's like a crystalline type of metal, and it's, like I said, it's highly reactive to microwave radiation, and you can map it and use it for that. But it's also when combined with, I think, strontium and aluminum and different oxides, it has properties like a CRT screen, like a liquid crystal display. So if people saw some strange types of things in their cameras, colors, rainbow effects, strange clouds looking like rainbows, or you could almost see like a magnetic field tracking across the sky, well, that's probably why, because they sprayed it full of magnetically reactive materials, right? Kind of like well, they call it magnetic reactive or reactive fluids, right? It's very similar.
Still, no one's complaining about it yet, are we? If you know what I mean. It's like someone needs to write a letter saying, where was the moon? And then get it signed by 1 million people.
Barium, though, so people know, barium was originally developed as a pesticide. That's what it is. So it's
trying to kill us then.
Does anyone, you know, like
Kills at least.
my mum years ago, she had to have things like x-rays and stuff, and she had to have a barium meal, but it's like a drink, so it actually shows up, and we should realise from them sort of things what it's actually used for.
That's exactly that's exactly what it is. You can use it for magnetic and X-ray imaging, right? So they fill the skies full of it, and then you breathe it in, and you drink it in, and you eat it in your plants and everything else. I mean, you're walking radioactive, right? Essentially.
Flipping out, that's scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then putting all the bacteria up there is not particularly very good, is it? Because what are they putting up there? More stuff to kill us?
Does anyone know if barium is actually, if it can ignite itself, if certain things are in the air that are right?
Say that again.
You know, like barium, when it lands on the ground, does anyone know if it's combustible? You know, like if, say, I don't know, got water on it or heat on it or something like that, does it does it need another source to make it combustible?
No, it's not combustible. It's kind of inert, but it's just reactive to microwaves and radiation. Yeah.
So what do you think they were using it for then the other day then, Chris? What would they want it to have happened around that eclipse then if they were putting all that up in the sky?
Multiple things, right? It blocks what people can see, so you can't see what they're seeing, and they sprayed the air full of it so they could map the electromagnetic fields during the event. Using radar, right? Like if you had, you know, the radar stations on the ground, and as the magnetic field during the eclipse travels relative to where the event is occurring, where totality was, you could actually probably with radar see the shadow going across the face of the plane, right, in a three-dimensional column if you had the right equipment, because there's an electromagnetic effect of the particulates they sprayed in the air, right? So 3D mapping of the entire electromagnetic column. They're trying to figure something out, that's for sure.
Oh, here it is. Patricia, there you go. Series is playing. Oh, is that another one? Or is that the one that's not the one? I've sent you Patricia's one, Series, on Messenger. Haha, he hasn't looked at Messenger yet. Oh, everybody's muted. They've left me all on my own.
I'm here.
I'm here.
Yay! Oh, he's got it now. Series will play it now.
All right.
Patricia needs to talk about this one because she's the one that's been studying this video, aren't you, Patricia?
Well, I wouldn't say studying it, but I just thought, hang on a minute, why am I supposed to be looking? Well, you'll see when they first showed you it, it showed you the horizon. And to me, it looks like the sun's setting. I know it's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but it just looks weird. That's what I was focusing on. And I thought, well, I can't see what they're yelling at, you know, like, whoa, and all this lot cheering and stuff. And I'm thinking, I can't see out. But somebody did mention on the video that the camera doesn't show you the effect as good, because obviously you can't zoom in on it. And I'm like, well, what's the point in look, you know? Anyway, so as I'm like scrolling round, as I said, I was scrolling round, I'm thinking maybe I'm looking at the wrong place here. They've got the camera pointed that way, but actually they were pointing up. So I'll let Series put that on then so we can see it.
I'm just getting to it. I'm trying to present it. There you go. Oh, I've pressed the button too many times. Right. Hopefully everybody can see this now. Coming up. There you go. Series, when you start it off, can you start it looking at the horizon? Because this is a 360 thing. There. Along a bit. Where is it, Patricia?
Need to go back to the beginning of the video and just play it from that point.
Down a bit, Series, on the horizon. Do you see it? So when Patricia came onto the video, she saw that and thought, what? And it was only later on she realised, like, oh, they're looking up in the sky. I tried to take a picture of it. It doesn't come out that clear, though.
That doesn't look like the right one to me. Hang on.
Yeah. And then go up.
Yeah, that's it.
Go up to the sun, Series now, and then go to the right. There's something. Maybe it's up a little bit, Series. And where does that one appear? From the beginning, Patricia, or do you have to watch it a bit longer?
Well, like I said, I was focusing on the horizon bit. So I watched the whole video just staring at the horizon. And I thought, hang on a minute, that don't look right. So then I watched it again up at this bit where Series is now.
There it is. So Chris wondered whether that was a camera flare, but what Patricia's saying is that lots of people caught that there.
Yeah, I would say that's Venus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about the one on the horizon then, Chris? What do you think that one is? Series got to come down. I think it's gone now, series, but it was there for a lot of it. If you keep the camera there, you'd have to go back to the beginning. Thank you, series. There it is. What do you reckon that is? I mean, it's not the biggest, I know, but it's pretty big, isn't it?
I'd have to have a look at it actually in detail, probably. Like I know the 360 cameras, right? They create like an artificial dome effect because they focus to the center point of the top of the camera, so everything kind of goes to a pinpoint center. So that arcing, you see that cloud-like shape there. It kind of looks like an arc depending on how you look at it. That's like the seam in the camera lenses because it folds the image into itself. The one on the horizon there, it's hard to say unless you can see the other side.
On the horizon.
It'd be interesting.
Like, what is that yellow stuff, like orangey stuff on the horizon?
Pollution. Yeah.
Pollution.
That's what that is, yeah. Like when you fly, you go up. It used to be when in the old days when you flew, you get nice blue sky. Now when you fly and you get up around 5,000–6,000 feet, no matter how high you go, you see this brown haze, and it just goes forever. Right? It's just low-level pollution from cities and people and everything else.
And what do you reckon that flare was going right through the sun then? Was that a chemtrail?
No, because it disappeared. It disappeared right through during the totality. So that would just be a camera effect because it's a 360 camera. It's just kind of taken the haze in the air and then folded it onto itself and made an artificial cloud. But it's just a camera effect, I think. 360 cameras are interesting to try to figure out.
But yeah, so but some of us, you like noticing that's in the sky. It's not actually that dark, is it, for the star to be out?
No, Venus though. I mean, Venus is the morning star, right? You can see it even during sunrise when it's pretty light out up until like 8 o'clock in the morning usually. So if that's where it was, it's probably where you would have seen it, yeah. Which makes sense because Venus tends to track with the moon, right? It'd be in a similar range. Yeah.
So where's the moon?
Where's the moon? It's not causing any eclipse, I can tell you that. It's not there. It's somewhere else. There's that line again. Yeah, the moon's just out of the field of view.
I mean, obviously we've put a little video out on Sun and Moon explaining that, but can you explain to people like what you think the void is?
It's electromagnetic.
It's just a void.
Yeah, it's just the light being canceled by an electromagnetic field, like forward X-ray scattering. It just cancels itself out. I think what I'll do maybe too is we'll do something specific on that here. I'll try to organize a little bit better presentation.
Oh, Chris, your presentations are great anyway.
Yeah, I'll appreciate that. Yeah.
Oh no, we appreciate that. Thank you. What, you're
It's a
going to
little
show
complex to try to. Well, it's a little hard to explain, but basically the light becomes inverted on itself and out of phase within a magnetic flux or a field, and it just cancels itself out. Like the white light becomes black light, and then you can't see anything, right? It just cancels itself out.
Does that
You
mean
know
I'm
those,
going to show
you know those fancy Bose headphone speakers you can buy, right? And
Yeah.
they'll basically what they do is they listen to the outside environment, kind of record it for a millisecond, then they invert it out of phase to replay it back to itself in the opposite phase. And what that does is actually cancels out the sound. So you hear absolutely nothing. But your ears are still hearing it at the same decibel levels, except now you're hearing it both signals at the same time. Right? And it's canceling out the outside noise. Tricks of waves, right? Like when two waves on the ocean interfere with each other, if they hit each other just at the right angle, then the wave just stops. That's it. It just disappears. I'm not sure what that is on
And
the
also-
horizon, though. Yeah, because it looks like it might be
Also,
a flare of some kind. Yeah, right there. It could be a sun flare. It's kind of there and then it's gone, right?
people were taking or capturing the eclipse in places they thought they couldn't. Like most people in England thought they wouldn't get part of the eclipse, not really. And then it went down as far as like Spain or something. Somewhere down there were taking pictures of the eclipse. And the bit that's got me is in Mexico, Robert Kidner, who's part of Sun and Moon, he put a video out from Mexico and the eclipse is going from left to right. In America, it's going from right to left. Oh.
Yeah, that's a flare. I just saw a series click on a couple spots there because it changes color on the horizon, and there's also a counter flare up above it there in one spot, like a white, kind of like looks like a jellyfish in the sky kind of thing, right there. Yeah, so that flare right there is that red image is the flare that's coming through that lensing effect above it, and you can see it changes color. So it's a lens flare. That's interesting. Hang on a second. Oh, if you hold that. Oh, okay, it's gone.
Back series, Portugal.
Right there. Pause her there. That's good.
They
I'll
caught the
show you a
eclipse in
picture.
Portugal.
If you pause that there, and then I'll share a screen just to show you. I'm going to show you something here. So you see in that red image on the horizon, the bottom part is missing. So it's got it's really small, but there is a black arch on the bottom of that red image, and then there's the white image above it is also kind of arched. It looks like a ghost effect, right? It's like an elongated tube or half moon tube, and the angle that the camera is looking at the eclipse is just different. But what it actually is, if I share my screen, is this from a different point, right?
I'm just getting there. All right. Okay.
This is what everybody caught. They caught that a lot, right? So during the eclipse, that object that you're seeing on the horizon in the 360 camera is actually that little spot there. Only now it's inverted because the camera is looking west rather than directly up at it. So the angle of refraction has been changed. And the white one that's in the air above it in the video is this area here being seen in the 360 camera. Yeah, so that's what this actually is. It's a kind of like a double negative image.
My camera in the phone, when I make a video, it's turned the side, and I was a surprise because when I make a live video, I see different side. It give me different side. The right in the left, and the left in the right.
Well, you saw the eclipse as well, then. You did. You saw the. No, you're talking about the moon.
No, but I have a question. If the moon is kind of gas, how come he realized to make the sun invisible?
Chris will have to answer that one.
I'm not sure. Can you rephrase that, Judith?
Yes. If the moon is, you can see through the moon. if the moon is kind of gas. So
Oh, yeah,
how come he can make the sun disappear like we saw 2 days ago, 3 days ago?
it can't. It's not. That's exactly the question. Right? The
Oh,
moon. We know the moon to be, at least in our circles, we know the moon to be hollow, and like you said, it's like a gas, right? It's like a gas ball or a metal hollow dust ball, essentially, and it's semi-transparent. So you're right. The moon is not causing the eclipse, because if it was, the light would shine through it, and the light isn't shining through it.
yeah, I
So
agree. So there is another object here.
there's something else involved. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's crazy though, the blackness of it though, isn't it, Chris? It's just like a void.
So maybe the moon's got also black moon, like the sun. Oh, maybe it's travel from one firmament to another firmament. That's why it can make this. I don't know.
Dave's saying it's translucent.
Yeah, the moon's translucent. Yeah, that's the proper term. Yeah.
So what do you think, Chris, makes that black void then? Apart from the fact that you could see a lot of electromagnetic stuff happening all around it, but what do you think? What is it that you think for the chat and for people watching? What you think that void is?
Well, I got a whole thing kind of lined up for that. I got a bunch of slides that I'm trying to put together a presentation to explain exactly that.
Oh, we've got Chris talking in a minute. Whee!
Well, I can't, not quite ready yet, so I'm going to just suggest that we maybe hold a private. Yeah, we'll do like a pre-recorded something. I can actually go through it in sequence and then have a look at it, make sure I'm, explaining it properly that people can understand. And
you don't want to do it tonight then? Are you doing this tonight, Chris, or you don't want to do this tonight?
No, I'm going to suggest maybe if we can do something on the side and record it and then have a look at it, and then maybe do another hangout to talk about it, maybe present it as a separate presentation. Cool. So it's all coherent, because I got to step through it, right? I got to be able to step through it one step at a time without any interruptions in the flow, and get it laid out and refer to a picture, bring up another screen, refer to a picture, open a model, do this and that, and then get it consistent.
Hey, so. Do you hear that, chat room? Chris is going to do another little video.
But what I can say is it's not the moon. Yeah, definitely not the moon. Yeah, causing the eclipse.
At least this time we recorded it, though, if you know what I mean. At least this time many more people can know that it's not the moon. The last time people probably went, oh, look, eclipse, there's the moon. Because that's what people think. I mean, tell people if it was the moon, what they'd be seeing then, Chris. What would they be seeing? The moon, for a start.
Well, you would see the moon, yeah. You would see a crescent effect. You would see an elongated shadow. Let me see. I might have a picture of that I could kind of share, but without getting too heavy into it. But let's see. Where is that now?
Oh, well, I'm presenting you anyway, so.
I'll move that down a little bit.
I'm going to ask a question to the chat room. What did everybody feel the other day when actually there is no moon? How did that make everybody feel? I've asked the question now.
There, I'll share this. Let me know when you can see the image here.
See it?
Zoom in a little bit. So what this actually is, get some feedback there too. Check. There you go. Okay, so what this actually is I've taken it into a software program, Blender, and I've applied the atmospherics and the particulate densities and everything, and as well have an object, a point light source that's at like 1,000,000 lumens, so it's an extremely bright source to scale. And then I put in a three-dimensional, so this is a solid object. It's actually a solid round ball to simulate what the globe model says is the eclipse model, according to globalists, right? So this is a solid ball, and this is what you should see during an eclipse. You would see the shadow cast and diffuse, and you would see, what you see when you're walking in the woods and the sun comes through the trees, right? You should see straight lines coming from the ball down to the ground as it passes through the air and the density and the dust and the dirt and everything else that's up there. All of our carbon emissions and everything else would create these rays, just like sunlight coming into a dusty barn in the morning through the barn boards. You should see that type of straight line coming off of them as it approaches totality, which nobody saw. And then as it gets to totality, you would see something kind of like the diamond ring effect that we get during an eclipse, but you should see clear evidence of the crescent of the moon, because it's supposed to be a round object, and you would see it appear before it goes total black. But we don't see that either. All you see in an eclipse is blackness approaching, and then it goes flash to ring, and then it just starts to fade back to black. But if there was actually a solid object there, you would see it, right? And then if you actually, what I've actually done,
you'd see some of the craters, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you, to see something?
you would see it, yes, as a definite solid object, yeah. So I can share this because I have put this part on my Facebook, so I'll share this part with you live. It's already open public, so I can share this. So that image I just showed you there of the eclipse there.
Oh, breaking up a little bit there, Chris.
Approach it.
Sorry, could you say that again? You just broke up a little bit then.
Right. Okay, so this picture here, right? Or no, sorry. This is also from the model, but in control. So I'm using this as a scientific control, right? So I've modeled it, applied all the light physics in the software, and then I took a screenshot of that and then ran it through a program similar to Photoshop. To break up to see how they would actually diffuse in the image, right? So if it was a solid object backlit properly using photographs emanating out. Right.
So I haven't really got that because for some reason it just broke up a little bit, which is really annoying.
You're breaking in
What, we're all breaking up?
no, yeah. You are in the speed.
In the slow down robot again.
Yeah.
What, me as well series?
I don't know, your signal in the sense of that you slow-mo.
There's not much I can do about that, is there? Thanks for showing that, Chris. So that was just trying to explain that we should have seen something if it was the moon, and all you see is black.
Ooh.
But did I come through funny?
Yeah. You keep the speech mode.
Can't do anything about that, can I?
Video?
No, because I don't have control of the thing in series or anything. Trish, you got any questions?
Mute yourself at least. You're echoing in speed up.
I don't have any questions. Yeah, and you sounded a little bit like Minnie Mouse again. No, somebody on helium Sorry.
Sorry, I can't help that. That's just the way it is. Me and Chris have got a problem tonight. All right, now then. Hello?
Yeah, hello.
Oh my goodness, it's a bit lagging. The last sort of like 3 or 4 days, I've just had this lagging thing going on my computer. And I had loads of people saying that they've got the same. It's just a sort of lagging thing going on. Anyway, hopefully I'm all right now. So, I just wondered, is there any more questions from the chat room then?
Yes, I have a question.
Cool.
When I picture the moon every day, so, and when you look the shadow, it's not perfect line. When I see the moon make the sun disappear, and when he's moving himself, so you see perfect line. So how come every day I don't see a perfect line when the moon is become bigger or smaller? The line is not perfect. How come? And do you understand me?
You mean on the where the shadow is? It's a rough
That's
line.
right.
Yeah.
Yes, Chris. It's not perfect line. It's
Yeah.
not. Yeah. It's not the perfect shadow.
Yeah, it's mainly just because the surface of the moon is not smooth. It has a rough surface with craters and mountains and that type of thing. So the light just breaks it up. It makes it look like you've taken a piece of paper and just ripped it in half. It's not a perfect straight line. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, if it had been the moon, it wouldn't have been a complete round circle, would it?
Say again?
The moon has craters. A side of the moon isn't quite as round as the rest. It's there's a slightly sort of squarey bit going up on the right hand side of the moon. You'd have seen all that in that shadow. There was nothing there.
Yeah, you would have. Yeah, you should have. Like people capture in high definition P900 images of the moon and so forth. I mean, it's pretty clear. You can tell that it has a relatively rough outside circumference, and the shadows on the terminator line are very rough, right? As the shadow passes, it's quite rough until it crosses over into full moon phase. So I agree. If it was in fact moon during an eclipse, you would see all those features on the perimeter, right? It should not be a perfectly straight circle. Definitely not. And they say, oh, well, you kind of do see, Bailey's beads and so forth peeking through, etc. But it's, in my opinion, it's not rough enough to be the moon. It should be rougher than that.
Can I ask you something? On an aeroplane, they often show there's a little dot on the sun. But totality means that whatever that black void is, it covers the whole of the sun except for shining out from behind. So how come on an aeroplane it goes into a little dot in the middle? I put one out myself. Chris.
That's the trick, right? That's the deception, right? The ones on the airplanes is because they're actually high enough and they're out of the atmosphere. They're up in the air and there's less dense air there. So if you're on the ground looking through a dense medium, well, you see a much larger image because it's magnified to your perspective. If you go up, the higher you go, the smaller the object gets. So the moon and the eclipse and everything else that we film up there in high altitude balloons is closer to the actual size of the real object because there's no lens effect, right? When you're on the ground and you see a huge moonrise on the horizon, it's not because the moon is actually that close to you. All you're doing is zooming into the point where that image appears within the air itself, right? You're zooming out to be like 5-10 miles or however far your camera can zoom, right? Some of them might go 100 miles or whatever it is, but there's not, the image you're capturing is appearing to you at that distance. And it's a whole lot bigger because it's being magnified by the air. It's like you're looking through a magnifying glass. But if you rise up in an airplane and you see the moon, you'll see it's a whole lot smaller because there's no air there to magnify the image. So that the moon at high altitude is actually closer to the real size and distance, for sure. That's what's happening.
Wow, I never thought about that.
Yeah, atmospheric magnification. We have the same problems when you do surveying across straight land, right, across flat land. You have to take that into account. Like if I'm shooting a target 10 miles away through a theodolite, and I have to take the readings of that distance, and I have another theodolite on the other side of at the 10-mile point away from me, pointing back at myself. There's many times when both theodolites can't see each other because the atmospheric refraction curves the image, right, of the two objects looking at each other out of the plane of view. So it gives you the illusion of a curve because it's just atmospheric refraction creating that magnifying lens, and it just bends the light between the two objects, even though if you zoomed into each other, you might be able to see each other, but it's just refraction curve.
Doesn't that tell you
That's
something?
why.
Doesn't that tell you something that if on Earth or flat plane, it covers the whole sun, and then only 7 miles up, it's a dot? Just tells you something, doesn't it? You know, like it's not millions of miles away, it's 7. I mean, planes usually fly at about 36,000 or 30, whatever it is, it's 7 miles. What down here covers the whole sun, up there is a dot.
Yeah, the dot is much closer to reality, yes, in size and scale and distance, yeah.
I never thought about it before, how perfect it is. The dot, you know, that circle thing is perfect. Although, actually, you noticed it was slightly straight, didn't you, at a point? Down the bottom or something, didn't you? As it was coming in, there was a slightly, it wasn't, the arc isn't quite rounded. It's slightly got a straight, it sounds really weird, a straight curve.
Yeah, there was a bit of a French curve. I think that was in Stan's footage.
Yeah, French curve.
Yeah, but he was obviously looking, you know, towards the United States from the UK, and it would have been closer to sunset from his perspective due to time, right? So the image would have been a lot lower on the horizon, so that slight flattening and fattening of the sun, like you did capture so often from Israel. As the sun is on the ocean, you'll see it kind of be squashed down and then widened out at the bottom. So that would be a refraction effect.
I have to say that Judith has been taking some amazing photographs lately, hasn't she? Some of those colours are just amazing.
Yeah, I'd like to be there someday and get some shots of that in real life. Yeah.
Judith will invite you.
Yeah.
I
know. Oh, I need a P900 and a plane ticket, and I go check that out. And I stick my feet in the Red Sea there, or the Mediterranean Sea. Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, I'm a bit shocked. I hadn't really thought about that. That if you were so, they obviously have got planes and things flying a bit higher than that, haven't they? Probably 10, 15 miles up. So what do you think it would look like that high up then, Chris?
Well, I think the higher you go, the smaller it gets. So it's hard to say.
So you wouldn't see it maybe at 15 miles up.
Yeah, I think the sun would be almost like a pinpoint, right? It'd be a pinpoint of light.
Be like the rainbow, eh? You can't reach the end of the rainbow.
Yeah.
It's only going.
Yeah. Yes, Siri.
Yeah, exactly. Chasing the rainbow, you'll never get it because it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Yeah.
We all thought that we'd find all the answers, but some of the answers are a little bit hard to find, especially if the sky is a rainbow and you know, it doesn't you can never catch a rainbow. What does that make you feel like, Chris and Series, when you hear that kind of thing?
Well, yeah, It's more the question, how does that work? I mean, with the ball, everything was explained, you know, no worries, blah, 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 have all its first. But with the flat, it's really starting from scratch. I mean, the land is flat, but the sky is like a sphere. But when you get higher, it's going further away instead of getting closer. It's so strange in how you have to look at this. And now all these older stuff out of the ages just makes way more sense.
Yeah, the ancients knew what was going on, that's for sure. For me, I feel humble. It just makes me feel humble.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they didn't have P900s.
Well, they had eyes and brains that weren't brainwashed by a mass media that was turning them into I don't know what you call them. Just, yeah. Totally different society and philosophy, right? In those days, you were expected to be responsible for yourself, educate, you know, the people so they could care for themselves. They had the knowledge. Everyone contained the knowledge. It wasn't just one point source feeding people garbage, right? It was just different, completely different.
But in a lot of the older sort of and things, they'd have said that it was Rahu or Ketu, wouldn't they? They'd have said it's one of them.
No, they wouldn't have been wrong either. No, it's not the moon, right?
Your name also, but what the actual nature of it, that's what I still wonder. I mean, people of the whole Vedic gives everything a name, but how the 10 connects is the other part of the whole science.
Yep.
Physics system.
I mean, if we think of Rahu and Ketu as nodal points of magnetic flux, like where the two waves cross each other and they flip 180 degrees out of phase, at that nodal point, which would be repeatable, you could say it occurs here and here and here and here. Every 11 years, you see it occur here, here, and here. And the ancients knew it. Well, then naming it Rahu and Ketu as the nodal points from an astrological point of view, like Santos always says, that's the way it works, right? There's the node points when they align up. And it just causes the cancellation of light. It's the lack of light. Which is interesting too. You'll notice that in the high altitude balloons that are starting to come out now with the eclipses, is like I said, there's no shadow column coming down through the plane of the atmosphere at all. Right? When the balloons are looking down at the ground, you see it just a black phase out or lack of light, but there's actually no column. So it's just lack of light.
You know that I showed you a little video, didn't I? It's not very long. It's only about 20 seconds long. Where I'm pointing my iPhone up at the sun, and you can see this disc coming out. It goes up from the left-hand side, and then it wasn't on that video, but there's another disc on the right, and there's orbs up there. What do you reckon that is what's causing it? They're there. You don't see it on a P900 footage, but it's on. You can pick them up on phones. There's definitely another disc up there. Do you reckon that's what covered the sun?
I'd have to leave that one for the longer explanation after we record it. I think it's a bit of a yes and no answer and requires a long explanation, but it's a yes and no answer.
I mean, I've video to series, and series can play it. I'll do that. Good old series. The reason I send it to series is that he's much faster at being able to play it than me, and my computer lags a bit sometimes, so it's best that series plays it. But if everybody wants to talk for a minute while I just get this video up. Oh, we need some music. Chris, it's your turn. We need some elevator music. No elevator music. I'm just going back through my videos. Come on, where are you? We need some elevator music, Chris.
Elevator music. All right.
Yeah, it's your turn.
Probably sounds really bad coming through this connection, but we'll see. Let's see. There you go.
Yay, thank you, Chris. This is a little video that I took. And you see the disc comes out from the back of the sun. It's coming. There it is. There's the disc behind the sun. And then I know that we're on here and it isn't actually the biggest picture, but there are orbs there. Students might have to play it again. They might have missed it.
The blue disc or the blue orb thing floating around, you mean, or no?
Yeah, I don't know if series can make it bigger, but oh, he's made it bigger now. So I zoom out. And then on the left-hand side, this disc just comes out from behind the sun and goes up. It's coming. Here it comes. There it is. It's coming up on the left-hand side. That's a disc. Do you see it? And then it sort of disappears. At the same time, because it's a bit small now, I can send you the video, Chris. But just before that disc comes out, there's an orb going up. There are two orbs going up, and there's one on the right-hand side. Yeah. And I've also seen a disc on the right-hand side in other footage.
Yeah, those are lens flares. Yeah, they're lens flares. Basically,
lens flare.
That particular one is, yeah. If it's a real object, it'll stay centered and stationary in the actual focal point of the camera. Like, since this one's kind of like the focal point is where the sun object is, right? The light. But if you're moving the camera around and you see it bouncing around like that, flying around, it's a lens flare.
Really? That disc is a lens flare?
It's always in the mirror. The lens.
Yeah. Yeah, the blue orb thing flying around there is a lens flare. Yeah. Yeah. Disc thing, yeah. Then it flattens out like that. Well, that's just a refraction in the lens. You've changed the angle of refraction and it spreads out. Looks like a bird flying or whatever. That's just a lens.
You can see the flare moving around in front. It's not moving anything like the disc behind.
Which disc? I don't.
Behind the sun, there's a disc that comes up.
I can't see it there in that image. But.
Hang on, he's playing it again. To the left-hand side, it comes out sort of going up towards, I suppose, 12 o'clock. Here it comes. Sun side, there it is. There's the disc. I know it's not the most brilliant video, but that disc goes up and then it sort of goes into a sort of orb and then it goes poof. I can't see that with my naked eye. You actually have to just point the camera up there and then the camera picks it up. But I filmed that thing there a few times.
Yeah, it's a cloud.
It's not a cloud, it's a round disc.
No,
I've taken pictures of it.
Eventually,
I've taken pictures of it.
You see,
no, it's not
because it is light.
Yeah, that's the double. Yeah, that's a double exposure effect, I think. Yeah.
And
is it?
And then you end up with the cloud itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the cloud.
But I've taken pictures of it. It's a round disc.
Yeah, it's a flare reflection thing. I can show you here what happens.
Oh, there was me thinking, there's another disc up there. I was thinking it was a bit more like what you were talking about when you were making the little video that was on Sun and Moon now. I mean, sorry, on the channel, when it's a bit like, you know, for this to all work, you can't just have the sun. You know, it's a bit like being a photographer. You need the lights, you need this, you need that. Otherwise, all the shadows won't work.
Well, here's a good image of it here. or the same effect, only this is slightly in reverse, but this is what's happening inside your camera, right? And why you're seeing things like that. If you can you see this, the picture of the power lines there?
Yep.
So the moon object is actually up here, where I'll square that out. So that's where the moon actually is in the camera that you're trying to take a picture of. It's a really hazy night, right? So it's foggy, whatnot. And then the camera, because the moonlight is polarized, right? This image basically is coming down through the entire medium of the air and being magnified. And this image here is still the same moon, but it's appearing in the actual every molecule of water in the air is acting like a little micro lens, and it's reflecting this entire image as almost like a holographic projection. And so what you're seeing is where the wire is passing through the light here is appearing as a shadow in this moon object over here. So this shadow is this wire. You can't see it here, but you see it as a shadow, right? So that's what's happening inside your camera. It's like a forward projection holographic image, right? But your camera just says this is too bright, but I do see this, so I'm going to decide to take a picture of this. I focus on this because this is too bright. The camera goes, what do I do? What do I do? And it takes a picture of this, right? And it's still, because it's actually focused more to this power pole than it is actually the moon. So it's the camera just couldn't decide and says, I'm taking a picture of this power pole, and it captures both the images because the lenses are stacked. In a cell phone camera, there's like 6 lenses stacked.
It's also a direct image. Yeah. If you draw a line from the left top to the right bottom, you see actually exactly the same mirror image of the moon. Right.
Yeah, it's actually an inverted. Yeah, you'd have to take this. If you took this here and flip through the flip it around 180 degrees and put it back on the face.
I want you to do it. I want you to flip it back on there now.
I can't do it. You have to, in your mind, right? You can see that this, if I take this here, so this little portion here of the shadow is this portion. Well, you actually can't see it, I guess. But this one here is this portion of the shadow.
It's crazy how the shadow shows it perfectly.
Yeah, so you got to flip this upside down. Yeah. Take this, flip it upside down, and slap it on the face of the moon here, and that's what you're actually getting a shadow of, right? It's upside down.
He goes up, and then the front part, and it's a mirror. So the front is closer to each other than the back.
Right. Yeah, this is upside down versus this. Yeah. Just turn this over and walk it up the wire, and there it would fit perfect, right? Just flip this up and do a little tightrope walk. Yeah, there you go. Hopefully we're not spoiling too many magic shows for children if they ever watch these videos. And they're trying to figure out how the magician makes the elephant disappear. Well, they know how to work smoke and mirrors. Yeah.
Well, it's all crazy, isn't it now?
Yeah.
Just when you think that you've, I've understood that about our flat plane. Oh, no, I didn't. And it's got 25 more things to learn.
Yeah, the hardware is confusing. It's not what we're actually seeing. It's just a downgraded, compressed version of it.
I was wondering if you meant the hardware within our own brains and bodies is actually confusing us into thinking we're seeing things that aren't there. Yeah, that's pretty accurate too, right? Yeah, the hardware. Our mental hardware is confusing us. Yeah.
As well,
yeah.
Especially it's programming.
Yeah. Got to scrub the root program and install a new CMOS, right?
Yeah. As a programmer, I actually always have written my own framework to work on, because I actually wanted to understand that the whole thing where what I was actually creating. From the root up, as much as possible, at least. Sometimes you have others work to work further on, but yeah, sometimes you have to create everything yourself. And in flat Earth sense, It is literally starting over. Yeah. The whole thought pattern of what reality actually is.
You've got to completely wipe everything out of your brain and start again.
Yeah, everything is completely backwards in that sense. Yeah.
Just like that picture Chris is showing us. What's that one you're showing us then, Chris? One of Judith's? Yeah, look at Judith's pictures.
Yeah, that's what I want you to do, Karen. I want you to show the people on the big screen the sun and the moon, because they don't used to. Never. They don't know how the sun looks like in reality, and the moon. Incredible.
Yeah.
Until this camera came. All the pictures from NASA.
Yeah, there's your
Yeah,
sunspots.
it's not your favourite place, is it?
Yeah, sunspot, yeah.
It's not your favourite place, is it, NASA? You get.
Oh no, they must be in prison. We must stop them, all these liars, because it's a private company and no more. And they must be ashamed, because really it's a big joke, all this. Big joke. And
It's like a money laundering place, isn't it? That's what it is.
yeah, and the chemtrail, we must stop them, because it's all over the world. I have connection with almost 500 photographers from all over the world, and I see the storm, I see the cloud. It's not natural. They destroy the sky. Who is these people? They are mafia. That's all. And we must stop them. Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah, in a way, I would suggest let's not make war in a sense of destroying the old, but just let's build with peace and actually build on the new, so that we have actually a new world to live in, so that the old world actually becomes completely obsolete. There is no need for them.
That's a great image of the moon there too, Judith. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you like about that one then,
What do you
Chris?
say, Chris? I have
Well,
more picture of the moon. I have more.
It's another way you can see how it's like the shadow creates a bit of a rough edge there, but it's
That's right.
due
That's
to
what I mean.
the elevation of the craters. Like this one's high, this one's low, and you get that rough
That's
shadow effect.
right.
But this
Yeah.
crater here has got a nice center pole in it. You can see where the electricity was a positive charge and went in there and kind of dug all this out and then created a raised crater. And this one here was negative, right? So positive and negative. You can see the polarity right in the crater. Yeah.
Anyway, we've done the moon as well. The moon's a biscuit chocolate cookie.
Yep.
and it turns into a donut. I mean, a hamburger.
This one particularly.
I like that one too. Yeah. This one's good because you could see that the moon is actually, like we're saying, it's actually, a translucent type of object. The light's coming in from one side underneath of it, and this is, it's supposed to be in shadow. However, since it actually allows some of this light to pass through it, you can see that there's the rest of the moon in the image. It's lighter than the darkness around it, right? So the light's passing actually through it.
Like
right, and they try to say, oh, that's just Earth shine, right? The sun's hitting the Earth and bouncing back to the moon. Well, I don't think so, Tim. Right? That this doesn't work. Right? You can't have your cake and eat it too. Right?
yes, it's like other object support the moon.
Yeah. Yeah, it's locked right into the Earth. Yeah. Yeah, great photos. Yeah. Thanks, Judith, for sharing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Those are cool. I like the one. This one's got the spots.
Yeah. Amazing colours. I mean, look at the colours on it.
Yeah. And it must be hot there too, because you could see the magnetic rippling effect, right? Must have been a hot day.
I also make a live video.
Yeah, Judith's another one of these people who's out there from dawn till dusk, sometimes taking pictures like Robert. Still hoping Robert's going to join us. But there was today's, well, it's a sad day today. It's a memorial service for his dad that died, and I know he won't mind me saying.
Yeah.
And he's hoping to join when it's finished.
So you kind of see how in this picture that Judith has here, you see these ripple lines going across it back and forth. But you see the one on the bottom, you can actually see, if you zoomed in, you would probably see that there's a solid black line separating part of the moon or part of the sun from itself, right? And what's happening here is the heat is creating a layered magnetic field, because as the heat rises off the ocean's a dielectric current field. So it's emitting microwaves and magnetic fields, but it's being heated by the radiation from the sun. And then when they interfere with each other, it creates this wave electric effect and the mirage, right? We see it as a mirage, but at that line point, all light has been canceled, right? That's where the two waves interfered with each other. The positive sun, negative dielectric, and the heat in between is creating this gradient, right? It's brilliant.
Someone in the chat room, Chris, someone in the chat room says, Peter says it's a boiled egg.
Boiled egg, yeah, okay. Yeah, yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be solid?
Need some salt. Yeah, we're gonna have some salt. Yeah, we're gonna boil an egg. Gotta put some salt on it. Yeah. Salt and pepper. Yeah. Yeah.
Arwyn's in the chat room. Should we ask Arwyn to come on join us? We haven't had Arwyn on for a while. He can come and join us for a little bit if he wants. I've just mentioned it, so he'll hear it in a minute. Oh, someone else to write to. Electric-a-lot. Okay. It's nice to see so many new names coming up in the chat room as well.
Not me.
Yes, Arwyn, you. Who, me? Series, you want to add Arwyn?
If he wants to.
Yeah, I reckon he'll come on for a little bit.
Oh,
I can come on, I guess, he says. He'll come on for a little bit. But I'd really like to, obviously, we're doing another little video, Chris. I like the little videos with Chris. He's action-packed, aren't you, Chris?
Still have
Action-packed, yeah.
Action-packed, Chris.
Packed full of something. I'm not sure if it's action or not, but certainly something. Yeah.
Actually, I want to say thank you very much, Chris. Thank you very much for all your research. Because, you know, and I suppose you're looking for certain things, aren't you, anyway? But thank you so much. I mean, even the bit about, we before we came online, or just as we came online, we were talking about the fact that you can, that bit with all the moons coming through the trees. Ooh, that's a bit weird. But the sun is shining through the trees, and each bit of shine has got a moon crescent in it. I mean, sorry, not a moon crescent. Whoops, an eclipse crescent in it. And that's just really weird. Don't you think? Series? You thought that was weird?
yeah, I was reading it.
I don't think so, but I'm sure lots of people do. Absolutely.
Why don't you think it's weird then, Chris?
Why not? Oh, because I understand what's happening and what's going on, but I'm going to save that part for the next one, because I want to put that as part of the principles I'm going to try and put together here. So.
Did you ever think that you'd be doing this amount of research for flat Earth? I mean, did you really think that you'd be doing this amount of research for things?
No, absolutely not. But you follow the path where it leads, right? And whatever leads you towards the truth, that's where you follow it. So happy to do it. Yeah.
Hello, Arwijn. How are you?
Oh, Karen, I'm doing fine.
Have you been watching the stuff we've been putting out about the eclipse that there's no moon?
To be honest, I just popped in. I finished a D&D game with my crew here. So I just popped in. I don't know what you've been talking about. But yeah, concerning the eclipse, I haven't seen any moon footage. Any sighting of the moon. Haven't seen any of it. Nor
No.
planets, by the way. Like, seems like during the eclipse, nothing other than the sun and whatever moved in front of it. Beside the sun and what was blocking it, nothing else had been seen. And there's been a lot of chemtrails too, I noticed.
Do you know Chris, by the way? I can't remember if you've met Chris on here or not.
Which Chris?
Chris Monk. Chris, he's next to you on the. He's the icon showing. Sorry, I should show you. Arwijn, he's the icon, the orange icon.
Yeah, no, we've met before and had discussions.
Yeah,
on
I know
it.
Chris.
Yeah, we've been doing a few presentations at the moment. The moon is a biscuit, a chocolate chip cookie. Because it was really strange because Chris didn't know I had those pictures, and he was talking about the fact that the moon was like a biscuit, like the way it's revolving, what it's doing in the sky. Hang on a minute, I've got some pictures of it. In those pictures, I have changed the colour a bit because it's obviously quite dark. But the bit you can see looks like a chocolate chip cookie. I was just like, what?
Well, I don't know what the moon is, but so far, I'm going by my own model, and in that sense, all the heavenly bodies are merely projections of some origin. I don't know how that works exactly, but you could call them fifth dimensional. They are at the edge of our vision always because we cannot approach them without them moving along. So whatever it is, they are apparently disks, and so is the sun. It's all just disks on the edge of our vision. That's what I think.
It's the perceiver itself what is actually the center of it. If you look at how the astrological chart actually is set up and how everything turns in circles in like the horizon in the middle, then you actually move and you have to enter your location and the time. And your location decides on where your longitudinal position is, and that circle has a 360 degree longitude. So that decides where you are on the plane circle for the sky circle to turn in the right position. And there, out of there, the time decides what position every.
Yeah, that is true. There seems to be a direct correlation with time, the 24-hour cycle, with the position of the heavenly bodies from east to west, basically, and that's looping. So there is a direct correlation in that sense, and otherwise, north-south basically determines the angle of the heavens, determines where the North Pole star is, and that is what we get to see. So, to me, it's the heavens are just a globe on the edge of our vision that just surrounds each individual.
Yeah,
that's what we see. That's all we really know. The rest is all speculation.
Yeah, well, I figured out how the flat actually makes that the perceiver itself is that center of that bubble.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. That's what makes it fifth dimensional and holographic. But there's still a correlation between the time and the east-west factor and the angle of the heavens, the heavenly globe, in the north and southern direction. So
And we have also spoken about how air balloons eventually, the footage of air balloons eventually actually show smaller objects. And it's like chasing the rainbow in the sense that you want to chase the moon, you end up with a way smaller moon than when you started on the Earth. All
yeah,
the late,
but
such a lensing
that's
effect.
only high up. Like when you go really high up, from all the balloon footage that I've seen, the moon does indeed become very small. And well, the
Just
sun, it just stays the same. Although the weird thing is that when you go higher up, it seems to be more shiny. So the sun, there's like less air in between, I guess, and it just seems to shine more brightly with more flare, shining into the lens that is observing it. But other than that, there's very little to see. The moon becomes smaller, and the sun, it's hard to tell if it changes size because it's just shining in your face.
actual filtered sunlight we do, as we do with normal photographs on the Earth. It'd be nice to actually have a balloon with filters, so they can actually see the light of the sun and see sunspots and such. And you would actually you can actually correlate on based on the spots itself on what you see below and what you see above, what the differences are, how that actually correlates to the air layers.
Do not hear anything, Chris? Oh, what was I going to say? I was going to say something then. It's just gone out of my mind then because I thought about saying it. Little videos about it because we put one out today saying Chris did. It's not there. There's no moon. It's just a dark void.
Yeah, during the eclipse, yes, there has been no sighting whatsoever of the moon that whole day. And the last time I saw the moon before the period of the eclipse was one day before. And then I saw the moon as a very, very, very fine sickle. It's barely visible. And that's the last I got to see of it that day. And during the day of the eclipse, there was just no moon to be seen anywhere. So it was gone. There was not even any black disk making a contrast with the skies, because when the moon is a fine sickle, you still get to see the darkened part make a contrast in the skies. But there was just nothing. There was no contrast, no black disk to be seen. It was just nothing. That's, yeah.
Yeah. It
That
just
was
appeared
interesting.
over the sun. You don't see it
Well,
coming.
they say it is, but I haven't seen any characteristics of the moon. It was just a black disk that we saw moving over. There was no particular surface or any type of contrast to be noticed. No moon craters or whatever the Globers imagine to be there. But just a black disk moving over there. That's it. That's all I got to see.
Lack of light.
Yeah, I can say more. Maybe the shape or the shape inside the moon. It's the reflection from the ice, from the firmament, because the dome is ice, kind of ice. Yes. So this is the shape.
I'm
The,
personally not too sure
the
that there really
I
is
mean
a
the
physical dome out there,
I
but
mean the details inside the moon. I mean the details, all the details inside the moon. Yeah, maybe it's the reflection, the ice.
Well, there are all kinds of theories about that the moon might be some kind of reflection bent or reshaped somehow of the Earth's surface. That's a theory. But really, if you just study the pretty specific surface shapes on the moon, you can't really find a direct correlation with the shapes that we know on the Earth. So even if it was a reflection, then we don't understand how that would work. You can't really pinpoint the shapes on the moon and say like, oh yeah, if you bend it this way or whatever, then it becomes the continents that we know or something. So it might be a reflection of some kind, but we can't really figure out how that works. That's all I know.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's definitely not a spheroid. It's definitely not a globe. It's more likely to be a disk that is somehow reflecting bent light or something. It's very mysterious. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, that's it. That's
It
a really good
happens to
answer.
look like craters, but
Mysterious. We live in a mysterious place.
yeah. Well, once you just figure out that the skies are holographic and they move along as you move along, that is on its own pretty damn mysterious. So makes it very surreal.
As if we're in a computer game.
Yeah, or you could reason that computer games are much easier to model according to how the astrological heavens work on Earth than it is to actually understand why it works that way.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it seems to be easily simulated. The astrological chart has been around for at least hundreds of years, exactly like the way it is right now. And it's being used for predictions and everything, and it's coming out exactly like predicted. So they understand how it works, just not really why. So
Well, they probably know exactly how it works because they,
do they?
Siri
Do they
got the
really?
next 100 years. Well, he's got the next 100 years of moon rises, and the military give that.
Yeah, it's all.
Yeah, but did they figure out, or did they just use the astrological chart?
Yeah.
Because well, if you just go back into ancient history, biblical history, then the fallen angels have originally gave us the knowledge of astrology. So they handed us the map that throughout time in how astrology worked. They just didn't really say why it worked that way. They just gave us how it worked and what's gonna happen when, but why does it work that way? I doubt that anyone really knows in this world, really.
Yeah, they are a virus, like the Matrix movie.
Yeah.
And their purpose is destroyed. They don't want to other things, They have a purpose. To put the virus everywhere.
Violence?
Yeah. Virus.
A virus.
Virus, yes.
Well, I don't know. I think it's a Promethean thing. Like, I think originally when they started to display all this knowledge, started to share it, they just wanted to hand out tools, basically, but to give us more grip over our world, to help us make more clean predictions and make it easier for us to build our world without having economic losses, because you can predict certain things and all that. So there's this advantage, but I don't think that the handout of the astrological charts is necessarily tied to violence in any way. It's something that was given and that's it. I think that humanity itself and concentration of power is mostly the cause of violence, really.
Yeah, I think that's what Judith was referring to, was that the political powers that be are like a virus that's feeding off the backs of us as being, taken advantage of, like they're a parasitic virus.
Well, that's what power does.
Leads to war and violence.
Power, concentration of power eventually only focuses on retaining that power, and to do that you have to assure that other forces do not catch up with you. Basically, that's their strategy. If you keep everybody in the dark, then you be one step ahead in the knowledge, even though it wouldn't help you to actually get ahead within the knowledge that you have. But they care more about power than knowledge, really, when it comes to that.
Yeah,
And controlling it.
Yeah, of course. Power, control, it's basically the same thing to them. And hey, if they could take it away, if they could take the knowledge of astrology away from humanity, they would try it. And they have, in their own way, been trying it by trying to convince the entire world, like, hey, come on, astronomy is the real thing. Astrology is just nonsense. It's just a misinterpretation. So just follow our astronomers. They'll tell you how it really works. Yeah, it's exactly the same as astrology, but it works like this. So this has to be correct, and the astrology map is not. That's what they're trying to do. But yeah, the astrological chart has been so widely spread. It's everywhere. It's recorded everywhere, and it's relatively simple in how it works. So it's very hard to get removed, because it's not that difficult. It's not that difficult to understand how it works. Just why it works. That's the hard part.
I am lately. I'm agree with you. So wonderful to listen to you. I'm like Neo in the Matrix movie. I see now everywhere Scotch, CGI, Scotch. Every photo I see Scotch and another Scotch and another Scotch. And when I watch the reality, I see Scotch everywhere. You see what I mean?
Scotch?
Yeah.
Are you talking about NASA again?
Yeah. Like you put on the picture Scotch, many Scotch, and when you make it bigger, you see how they lie. So I see the reality like this now, not number. I see this like CGI. Yeah, funny.
Well, most of what NASA puts out is CGI because they can, because it's really easy. They have all the resources to do it. They know how to attune it to their astrological model very, very easily. So it's very easy for them to just, bring it forth, whatever they want to show us. They don't actually need footage of the real thing to demonstrate anything, because they can use their models, because they all calculated it all out. So
Arwijn,
they prefer to show us CGI over the real thing, because they actually want us to rely on their CGI models rather than on our own observations. So they'd rather use CGI than the real thing if they could.
Arwijn, do you practice astrology and use the charts and know how to work to interpret them?
I tend to recognize astrology when I am confronted with it, and I feel it. I can feel it out. I know when something is probably astrological in nature, but I'm not an expert. I didn't study all of it. I don't know everything that's happening, how it works, roughly the shapes of the motions of the stars and all that stuff. I've seen so much of it.
I was just thinking, I thought maybe if you were practicing the astrology charts, you could run people through a bit of a demonstration how you apply the knowledge and interpret the charts and so forth. But
No, astrology and church are two
Not the
things that...
church, not the church. Apply the knowledge to the charts,
Oh, the charts.
astrology charts. Yeah.
No, I don't really understand how that even works, how the astrology has influences. I don't know why it works that way. It just seems to work that way. And I just know that the stars and all the heavens worked according to very tangible physical patterns. And that's just it. And they all seem to make cyclic motions. There's never a straight line anywhere. It's all cyclic motions. And that's it. And to me, it is a mystery sometimes that when astrologers, they use the alignment of the heavens and everything to interpret it, and they make all these predictions. And I don't even know why it works that way. It's almost just as much as a mystery to me as why card divinations work as well as they do. Because when I lay cards, and I do that sometimes, it just works out so incredibly well. It's shocking. It's just shocking how well it comes out every time. How in your face it is. It's like there's no more, for me, there's no room for interpretation when it comes to laying cards. It's like, oh yeah, it could be this, it could be that. Oh, it must be a coincidence. No, when I lay a card, I get such in-your-face answers. It's like, okay, back down. That's how I respond, because it's just so straightforward. It just works, and that's it. I don't know why. Yeah.
So I just realised I'm doing a Somebody noticed on the chat room when I'm listening, there's something I go and I realise that I'm doing it.
Doing what?
Yeah. I go and I just go and someone in the chat room said Karen's going again. I just thought it was funny. Anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry, breaking the track there. Yeah, I don't know. I feel a bit like, I can't believe I set off on the path that way. Go here, somewhere else completely different now.
I just pulled up a picture there. This is people have been sending me their moon pictures now since the eclipse, and they sent me a lot of eclipse pictures and photos to look at and analyze. This is the first one I received after the eclipse, like Arwijn was saying. It was not visible until the 23rd approximately. Like, this is one of the first pictures that I received. You know, because people were looking out for that, right? How long will it take after the eclipse for the moon to reappear?
Yeah.
As soon as people saw it, they started taking pictures of it. And clearly
it takes a long time, doesn't it? Once it becomes eclipsed, it just stays exactly that way for a pretty long period. It's like, why? It should technically just move and immediately move on. And it doesn't. It just stays exactly eclipsed. It's pretty remarkable that it works that way.
And clearly you can see that it's obviously, you know, the transparency of the light coming through it, it's backlit, right? So it's very interesting.
What you're seeing there, it could also be clouds. There was a lot of clouds.
No, that's this backlit part of the moon, right? The rest of it. So it's the very first appearance after the eclipse was the crescent, and then the rest is just the backlit.
From all the footage that I've seen, I didn't see any dark side that was lighter than the back, really. So I wonder if this is not a doctored thing. I did see some pictures here and there where people were actually like...
This is the picture of a moon crescent.
Some people just paste the moon over it. They really did it like that.
No, this isn't during the eclipse. This is the very first picture after the eclipse, 2 days later, right?
Oh, so it's the moon returning.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's typical, because now you can again see that the moon has this very elaborate, noticeable dark side that is darkened, that is not the back
It's a different dark color,
Yes,
isn't
exactly.
it? Than the
And
one
during
on
the eclipse, you didn't see that. It was just a
No.
perfectly black disk. It wasn't there until
Yeah.
it blotted out the sun. You didn't see it appear next to the sun and then move over it. It just appeared as a dark black over the sun. You didn't see a disk next to it. It's very telling. Another hint, great hint, that it's not the moon moving over there. That's something else.
You would have seen a little bit of the craters. I mean, if you look at that picture where the bright bit is, none of that is completely rounded, is it? You can see the sort of cratery bit happening. Like, well, you don't see any of that on that eclipse. You saw nothing. Oh, void ever, really, when you think about it.
It's Rahu, or one or the other one. I don't know. I think there are two like black bodies that are supposed to be out there.
Yeah, you have the north node, and that's Rahu, and then the south node, and that's, I don't know.
Ketu, I think. Rahu and Ketu, right?
I'm not sure.
Is that what you think it is, Chris? Or do you think it's something else? Just asking.
Well, the eclipse only happens when Rahu is around, not when the sun and moon eclipse.
Sorry?
That's the funny thing there. The eclipse itself is only there when Rahu is around.
Yes.
The sun, not when the sun and moon are crossing each other.
No. No, the moon is not, usually when that happens, the moon is just completely gone. It just disappears. It even
For a few days.
sometimes, especially when the moon is late and during the early sunrise, you can still see the moon on the sky as the sun is rising, and then it just fades out. It fades out completely as the sun starts to go higher. It just blurs away, and then it's just gone. You don't see it anymore. You don't see it move over the horizon. It's just gone. It just disappears out of sight.
One thing we did talk about before you came on, Arwijn, was the fact that down on here, where we are, the disk looks much bigger over the sun. But I mentioned the fact that, you know, when you're in an aeroplane, it just looks like a black dot in the middle of the sun. Chris was saying that the higher you go, the smaller it is. So I just think, doesn't that just show you how close everything must be? 7 miles.
Well,
7 miles up, supposedly, a
apparently
plane.
close. Look, it's always at the edge of your vision, and when you go really high up, then the air density becomes a lot less. So whatever you get to see over there is not lensed through as much air. So I think that's why it becomes smaller. But maybe that's a misinterpretation. I don't know why that is. Maybe it is because of this apparent dome that is over us, or however it really works. It's very hard to figure out until you actually
There are
get to
the
touch a dome.
earth, water, air, fire, and ether layers, in platonic layers as well as elemental layers, and each is their own level of science as well.
Oh, that's speculation. It's
No, that's science. Each platonic layer has its own science. The earth science, the water science, the air science, the fire science, and the ether science.
the optics of it, yes. But
the whole thing.
But you don't know that they're all literally up there. They're all physically up there. You don't know that because we don't have any touchable proof of that. It's just interpretations.
In tangible and touchable thing, I can only stay on Earth. Sky itself seems to be a sphere around me, in a person.
The heavens.
And I figured also with these particular waves of how you can see in one side of the Earth, either north or south, the 24-hour sun, that actually, when you take that whole edge of that wave and you put an angle on the 90-degree an arrow towards where you see actually the sun on that edge,
Mm-hmm.
then you see that everywhere you see actually the sun on a different place.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And that particular circle is there that people see it in the north, and then in the south. And that counts the same for the light of the moon. If you're south enough, you can actually see the same with the moon.
Oh yeah, but they are definitely of the same origin. The holographic workings on these bodies and their relative position to the viewer, it
There's
works the same.
system in this, an actual clock system. And so
Sorry?
far, an actual clock system. So far for
In a
season.
way, yes, it is. It is like a clock. It is a very solid mechanism.
The whole
In
Earth
the relation of all these positions on the heavenly globe around us, that is all very fixed and worked in the same type of distribution, the same type of system. That is very
and that's
true.
I would also think, well, why wouldn't we be part of that particular system? We just don't realize it. How much part we are of that system, what we don't even know exists in that sense.
Well, we're
How
the
that
ones who are having eyes. So I think that our eyes and how they functions, how they catch light, has a lot to do with
Yeah.
why the heavens are observed the way they are to us.
I mean, the actual whys behind the astrological aspects of your personal aspect within the moment you'll be born, and that is the actual aspect of way you spiritually have to be choosing that moment to experience that particular experience. And that's what I figured out of the astrological part of it. And yeah, there are several other calendars working with different descriptions, and kind of a combination of all together describes of for me personally actually my own life, in a sense of how I actually didn't ever looked at it, but eventually I realized this is my life, you know.
Yeah, I get that. When I, especially like with the I Ching, the book the I Ching, I had that very vividly. So most of these works, these divination works that are somehow rooted into the astrological charts, it does seem to match with how people develop and the moods and the directions they are taking during their lifetime. So it seems to have a great influence in how our consciousness proceeds and envelops in this world.
Even your emotions are just energy. Even externally, energies can be felt as emotions in that sense. That you can even feel other people's emotions as soon as they're in your area. In that sense, you can feel how frustrated or mad or loved. You can actually experience their experience in a sense by looking at them. And yeah, in that sense.
So Arwijn, a question for Arwijn. Arwijn, just so I'm clear, you don't accept the sun and moon and interplanetary bodies as being physical objects in any way, shape, or form?
Yes, I don't. I haven't for a while. It's what we bumped heads with first, remember?
Oh yeah, I do. I'm asking you to clarify. Why is that? If you could clarify for me, why don't you accept them as physical objects?
Because they cannot be triangulated. Because there's no way to approach any of these bodies. And as long as you cannot approach them, as long as you cannot triangulate them, there is no tangible proof that they are physical bodies, because everything that is physical, that we have proven to be physical, can be approached, can be touched, and they cannot.
So far, I figured throughout the old text that these are even described as kind of separate planes of existences. Each of these planetary objects.
So how do you
That's
discount?
taking it a step further, series. That's like a
So
very,
my second question would be, how do you discount their physical effects upon this realm if they're not physical objects?
there are barely any physical effects, really.
Like the heat of the sun, for example, on your face, or the change in the tides and effects on the oceans by the moon, that sort of thing. The feeling when you feel the cold from the moon, the shift in the temperature.
That's the light. That doesn't mean that it's actually from the moon. That's not actually from the disk that we get to see. The disk is merely a pointer on the heavens that shows what direction this light is coming from.
Right.
Because the light is all parallel. It's not coming from that point.
So how would the light? I'm wondering, how would the light from the moon cause the tides in the oceans to rise and fall on a basis that can be tied to the moon?
It doesn't. The light of the moon doesn't cause the tides at all.
So what causes the tides in your opinion?
Well, probably an electromagnetic pulse of some type, a wave that rises and goes down in strength 2 times a day, that just so happens to correlate with a cycle of the moon, likely. If even, maybe not even, maybe if it is very stably at certain fixed 2 points in the day, it's more likely to correlate with, let's just say, the appearance and disappearance of the sun. So it all depends exactly the moment when the tides happen. But I don't think it has anything really to do with the moon. That is the the heliocentric interpretation. It still relates back to, hey, the moon is a physical object coming close, pulling this water up. And that's just nonsense. It's an electromagnetic pulse, as you showed me. You showed me how seawater, salt water, can be electrified and then be pulled towards magnetic surfaces, like magnetic rock. So it's not the moon. It's no physical object causing this. Although the moon rise and disappearance may correlate with these moments, these spikes of electrical activity that causes the tides. Doesn't mean that the moon itself is a physical object actually causing that.
Actually, right, because the moon isn't the cause of it. It is the consequence of the tides are the consequence of the moon.
You don't know.
Actually,
you don't know what. You just know it's caused by this electromagnetical effect that causes the sea to move towards magnetic rock. You don't know that it has anything to do with the moon.
Yeah, that's what I say. It's not the source of the cause, it's the source of a lack of a cause.
It just happens to be at the same moment, and we have learned through heliocentrism that it's supposedly caused by the moon, so that sticks to mind. That keeps coming back. Doesn't mean it's real. It's just very stubborn. It's a stubborn piece of...
Yeah, I'm just curious. I'm curious. I'm curious, like, how do we explain that, during the correlation that you speak of, there is a correlation between the rise and fall of the tides and the timings twice a day, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to have a physical effect within an electric magnetic current, you have to have either an interruption in the circuit with a physical medium or an amplification of the field through an additive process of energy outside of the source. So how do you account for the actual change in frequency and electrical charge distribution to cause the tide?
I don't know what the cause is of this.
Without a physical, it has to be a physical medium to cause a change.
Yes. Well, I don't know what this is. I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. The best connection that I could make with the moon's location and appearance is that it could probably, maybe, I have no idea if it comes even close to reality, be related. Like the moon could be like a side effect, a heavenly projected side effect that
Arwijn,
relates to this
don't-
pulse.
if you don't
Doesn't
know
mean
what
it's
it is,
caused by the moon.
how do you know what it isn't?
Sorry?
If you don't know what it is, then how do you know what it isn't? What it is
Well,
not?
I can exclude what it is not. The moon cannot be a physical object because it cannot be triangulated. So all interpretations,
It's only our own observation. It doesn't mean that it isn't a tangible thing or something that it.
no, it does. It actually does mean it's not a tangible thing, because otherwise there would be some kind of way to approach it.
It may not cause the eclipse, but it has a certain effect in the world.
You don't know that.
Well, cycles explain it in that sense.
What cycles?
The cycles of how they go. There is a way in how you can actually explain it, but then in the square sense. But how to actually the observation of the objects just changes on the Earth itself. That's a combination of how the actual rhythms go on top of it, and how we perceive it in our own bubble, and then where we are in that particular wheel, in the fourth dimensional wheel.
Yeah, sure.
We just, in a smaller sense, even around us, than that the plane is wide in that sense.
Okay, but the only really tangible, measurable thing that we can deduce from the moon's activity is the coldness of the light and the intensity of it in its cycles, and that's basically it. That's the only direct connection, part of it being part of the astrological cycle, that we can lay with certainty that that's directly correlated. The entire tides, it's an interpretation. We don't have proof that it has anything to do with the tides, anything at all.
All the craters on the moon are probably all the same causes on the Earth by arcs, and some probably even between Earth and Moon.
That's a nice interpretation, but you don't have any direct proof. You can't compare the patterns of the moon with the Earth's surface patterns and find a correlation. So until you do, and until you can directly correlate the patterns of the Earth with the moon, and it actually matches up, you don't know.
Can I just say that I've just seen a quick solar eclipse, which I think Chris would like to see. Chris, there's a little video I've sent series. I've sent it to your messenger. And also C Proxy says there's one you should see as well. So maybe you could play that afterwards. I'll put this one in the chat. And then Chris say what he's got to say. A minute long, but you'll like this one, Chris, coming up.
I like to say something about this. If everything is water, Arwijn, so we speak about water, so maybe it's kind of rock of ice. And ice is get better the light, the ice. So I don't know.
Well, ice tends to refract light almost as much as glass does, maybe even more. So it definitely does not leave light undistorted.
It's not playing series.
No, I was waiting.
Oh, okay, sorry. God, no, play it now.
Explain again, Arwijn. Explain again what you say.
Well, ice is kind of like glass. It refracts, it distorts, it bends light, just as glass does when light goes through it. So I don't know. I don't think there's really.
You know,
let's just say that I don't believe
Arwijn,
that anything we see in the heavens is correlated to any kind of material, basically, that is supposedly up there in a dome shape or whatever. Because any kind of physical dome shape would leave direct traces, would leave anomalies, and it wouldn't leave us with a perceivable globe of stars and everything that's always so perfectly on the edge of our vision like that.
So what maintains the atmospheric pressure that keeps us alive? I guess is the question.
Gravity.
If there's no container, then what maintains atmospheric pressure?
Looping, the looping,
Gravity?
the slice of space, the east to west looping effect, and there must be some kind of end to the north or south, or it is also looping, that contains the air.
Like a pressure tube, you mean?
Well, if it's looping from one side to the other, that means it is confined and the pressure will equalize itself.
Did you say gravity? I missed that
Well,
part.
gravity is the thing that all pushes it towards the down direction, basically, the heavy matter, and makes the light matter slip upwards.
What proof of gravity is there that gravity exists?
Well, let me get really corny. You take an object, you drop it, and that's how you know that gravity causes things, heavier things, to move downwards in relation to lighter things.
But gravity's never been proven to exist as an isolated force.
It's never been, no, it's not been proven to be a force, but doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's an effect. It's an effect, a consequence of matter.
But isn't that what you're saying
Just
about?
there.
Isn't that exactly what you're saying about the stars and the lights in the heavens being holographic in reverse?
Now,
Right.
that's just observation.
But you can't observe gravity and you claim it to be real. You can't observe the
But you
stars
can
in the
measure
heavens.
it. You can measure it by how matter responds in this world.
Right, so we can measure how the moon affects the tides and the waves. And
No,
the
you
currents.
can't. That's just speculation. You can interpret it to be the
I think
cause
you're
of
going
that
around in
effect.
circles. You're going around in circles without any causality, man. You got nothing to base your principles on.
Yeah.
You're going around in circles.
No,
You're contradicting yourself
no,
everywhere
I'm
you
not
look.
contradicting myself. I'm being very straightforward.
You're saying on one hand that gravity exists because I can measure the fall of a rock. You're saying that the moon has no effect on the tides because I
I'm
can't
not
reach
saying gravity is a force.
Right.
I'm saying it's a constant. It's just an effect that's noticeable, that's measurable within our world. It's very direct. It's very measurable.
but there's no proof of that existing as an isolated force.
No, I'm not saying it is an isolated force. But I'm not saying that
Any
it
force.
doesn't exist
Like
at all.
gravity hasn't been proven to exist.
No,
by any-
gravitational pull has not been proven to exist. Gravity is just a daily occurrence. You can measure it. Anyone can measure it. It's just the constant falling.
Right, so we can correlate. Then we can correlate that when the moon is at X above this point, the tide rises by 1/4 of an inch because the moon is exactly here, causing an effect on the entire ocean. So you can't say in one hand that that effect is not measurable and then claim just because gravity is
You
measurable.
notice that there is a direct correlation with the position of the apparent moon disk. Doesn't
Right.
mean that's actually a physical body causing that effect. You don't know that. It just happens to correlate. Just
So
happens to be at the same time.
That's the same as saying that I can measure gravity, therefore the rock on my hand that falls, the rock is not real. So you're saying exactly the
No,
same.
that's complete fallacy. That's mental gymnastics. It has nothing to do with anything.
It's the same.
Well, you're circling around in circles, right?
No, I'm not. I'm being very straightforward. I know exactly what I'm talking about.
Then you need to explain it in a way that makes sense. Then, to me.
Well, I
Right,
did.
yeah.
I did a 2-hour hangout about it. So,
But you're basing it on gravity that doesn't exist.
no, gravity does exist. It's just not gravitational pull.
Now, what is gravity?
What is gravity then?
We don't know what gravity is. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
So,
It just
so you
means
have
we
no,
don't know what
you
it
have
is.
no- so you just say, I don't know what gravity is, therefore I can't prove that it exists. Which means, in your view, it doesn't exist. It must be a
No, but we
it's a
can
holographic.
measure the
you're-
consequence of gravity. We can
Right.
measure that it's there. We just don't know what causes it.
So you're saying gravity is a holographic force.
No, absolutely not. Holographic has
Well, you
nothing
just said
to
it doesn't
do with
exist
not
and you
being
can't
able to
measure
measure it. It has to do with optics. It has to do with position. If the position is not in a literal position, but in relation to the observer, then it is holographic. Has nothing
So
to
I-
do with gravity. Gravity is
so
an
I-
earthly effect.
So you're saying that
Only
I see
can be
the
measured with
rock.
matter.
You're saying that I see the rock fall, therefore gravity exists. I'm saying I see the moon move that causes the oceans to move, therefore the moon exists. Either way, it's the same argument in reverse.
No, it's not. And you can say that whatever effect proves
Just
the
remember,
moon, this
everybody
doesn't mean
stay
that you know
nice,
what it
guys.
actually is.
Arwijn, we had a bit of a
Pretty
disruption the
selective,
other
I
day.
would say.
It's just everybody stay nice tonight. We've already had one disruption this week.
Yeah.
Fine.
No, I-
I'm not disrupting anything, but I'm just trying to defend myself.
Yes, I'm asking you to provide a foundation for your defense that is
My
logically sound.
foundation is basic observation and pure logic, and not being driven by the necessity to prove beyond what I can actually tangibly measure and logically reason out.
They both should ask the chat room. Who believes in gravity or even that it exists, even if we don't know what it is? Chat room.
I love to say something
If you
about
look at the law of buoyancy and of density, gravity is a part of it. Just so you know. There's gravity in the formula. So it's very nice to say that gravity doesn't exist, it's all density and buoyancy, but without gravity, there's nothing. There is no density, there is no buoyancy. Without gravity, it'll all just float around. Nothing would happen, nothing would be, the heavy matter would not be
We don't
moving
need gravity
in the downward
because we're not-
direction.
We need that because we're on a flat plane. If we're on a ball, we'd need some kind of gravity or something like that to keep
No,
us
we
here.
need
Arwijn.
gravitational pull for a ball. We need matter to be pulled towards other matter, but that's not what gravity is.
We don't need gravity. Doesn't exist like that, does it? Because we're not moving.
I love to say
No, but I'm not saying that gravity exists like that. That's why I say gravity is not gravitational pull. Gravitational pull is fiction. That doesn't mean that there's no such thing as gravity. It's
Why-
just not a force. It's a constant. It's an effect
I-
that we
Using
can deduce to how matter responds in this world. And everyone can do this. 9.8 meters squared per second.
You know, yeah, in only one
That's what it
direction,
is.
which in only one direction, which is down. So there's no such thing as any object having a horizontal force or any two objects being attracted to each other
Yes.
in a horizontal plane X, Y, or Z. It's only singular.
Yes.
according-
it's only one
according to that.
direction.
But
Light-
that's not the definition of gravity according to the gravitational theory.
Hey, but now you're saying it. Gravitational, it's not gravitational pull
Same.
is fiction, it's fraud. I'm
Yes,
saying
it is.
that doesn't exist.
Yeah, but why
Right.
use the same as your definition?
Because the formula is solid. It just works.
The formula doesn't work.
It does work.
No, it doesn't. It's
Yes,
based
it
on
does.
mass. It's based on mass attraction without any linear or collinear distribution.
No, the mass attraction is the logical reason, according to globalists, why it works the way it does. I'm not trying to explain why it works the way it does. I'm just saying it works, and this is how it works. This is the formula. It's being used. Everyone can measure this. It is there. We just don't know why it is there and what causes it and why we can't measure it other than how matter responds in this world. That's
I don't know.
just it.
How much do you know about the electromagnetic stuff?
Sorry?
How much do you know about the whole electromagnetic stuff? I mean, that's.
I've had a separate hangout about that, and I pretty much concluded that it cannot be the same thing because electromagnetism in all its forms can be very measured, and it's always a localized effect that has variables in it. There's
Yeah.
variable strength in its field. It's very measurable. Gravity does not. It's universal, it's everywhere, and it's the same. It's one direction. That's it. We don't know what causes it. Although
So-
I have
Okay.
theorized in my latest hangout that it might possibly be centrifugal force in a very complex setup.
Yeah, but by definition, the definition of gravity is the attraction of any two bodies to each other
No, that's
based-
gravitational pull.
based
Keep it
based
separate.
based on their mass, right?
No, that's gravitational pull. I'm not talking about gravitational.
Not a name. I mean,
The theory of gravity, the measurable constant of gravity, was there way before gravitational pull. Okay.
So
I love to
oh, it's
say.
that way. But I call it gravity. But
Yeah.
call it something else. What it is? What is it
Hang on
then?
a minute,
It is
hang on a minute.
gravity. It was. The word
on,
was
no
raped.
argument.
It was raped by globalists. They turned it into gravitational pull, and everybody thinks that gravity is gravitational pull, and that's a lie. They distorted it. They ruined it, and now everybody keeps interpreting it in the wrong way.
Okay, wait a minute, Arwijn. You did. What do you want to say?
I said what I wanted to say.
No, you did. You did wants to say something.
Yeah. What is the most beautiful is to stay open and listen to everything. Stay open. This is the most important. And I think gravity, it's the psyop of NASA because who created this word? It's only a word. So maybe you also right, and maybe Chris also right. And you see, the meaning is the same meaning. Only we are not agree about the word. And yeah, it's
Everybody
the
knows.
measure. Gravity is the Neil deGrasse Tyson measure. He used this word. He loved this word. So yeah, I'm not agree with this word too.
Well, I'm not letting that love of the globalists for the word
Listen,
gravity
Arwijn,
ruin the word.
Arwijn, we've done enough of gravity now. People in the chat room want to see the little video played. So, series, let's play the little video for now.
Okay.
Yeah, show the little video because there's a few things on here that Chris might like. Series, play. Yeah, that's our Robert. And then I've got another one. Oh, he wants to show that. I've got another one here.
Can you play it again? Who's that from?
It's Robert Kidner. He's the guy in Mexico.
You have that previous video. What was that one again? Yeah.
The bottom part.
Yeah, his is the other way round because he's in Mexico.
You don't see it.
This is one of Robert's videos, you said?
Yeah, he's in Mexico.
But Robert recorded this?
Yeah, Robert Kidner's his name. He lives in Mexico.
On the next one, probably.
And I've got another one for you, series. I thought you'd like to see that, Chris. And then one in the chat room.
Oh.
I was hoping that Robert was going to come on the other day, but he didn't. Is that then, Chris? I can
Yeah, that's
send you
good
the
capture. A little bit. I mean, it was only a minute or so, but it's definitely a good capture.
No, 360. Actually, looking at the
Maybe Chris has seen this one before. Is this the one you took, Chris?
Yeah, I seen that one. Yep. It's one of the 360s I looked at. Yep.
I think it was, yeah, because it was the one you were showing about the crystals. See the ring of reality, whatever they want to call it.
If you pan around and look up during, because I think that was an interactive video, you can pan around and look up.
Yeah, this is a recording of that.
Oh, it's not the original 360?
No, it's a recording of the 360. That's what you said.
Oh, do you see that? You see, it had a disc on the ground.
Yeah,
Is that the original one that's on YouTube? Because you can pan around and look around as it's playing, right? You can pause it and look around, right?
Maybe
If you go full screen, I think you can pause it. If that's the right video, but I'm not sure if it's actually the.
this is the 360.
I
There
just
you go,
got
yeah.
sent it by, I'm really sorry. I can't remember who sent it to me now.
Yeah, Z Proxy might have posted that one, so you can actually pause it. I think there, and you can look up. There you go. So I'm wondering what Arwyn's take on that might be.
Owen's gone off somewhere for a moment.
No.
God.
Oh, yeah, because you said it always stays in that circle. Ooh. Oh, my goodness.
See, when it goes to full totality, now you see just a little, the sun object being just a little light going around inside that circle. It never leaves that crystal. So that would be during totality.
What do you think that means then?
Well, I kind of know what it means. I was curious to see what Arwyn thought of that.
Arwyn, where are you?
Maybe he's gone.
Be back in a minute.
Anyway, this is some of the footage I'm going to be analyzing and looking at in more closer details, and I was going to grab some screenshots of that too, and maybe we can play it sometime and do a specific hangout to this.
Up a few more things then. Well, that is so strange, isn't it? It goes to a little light like that.
Well, it never leaves.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Because this is much higher.
It's a 360 camera. Right? Yeah, it's a 360 camera, so that would be the horizon of the focal point on the top of the camera, and you're looking up through it, right? And you can note that the sun object during totality, or any time during this entire video, never leaves the confines of that circle, right? Even though it's a 360 camera and it's capturing the entire horizon, because if you pan down, you'll see that it's a flat horizon, right? There's the entire 360 field of view, right? But because it's a 360, like you don't see it's a 360 camera, so you just see where the ropes kind of are, right? And then you pan up and look up, and you'll see what's up. You'll see an entire circular view of the entire sky above you, right? But during the eclipse, the sun never leaves that circle of crystal lattice or crystal ice looking field. So I was curious to see what Arwyn's thoughts were on that. If you pan back up and show him the, maybe play it again and look up.
I'm not sure what I'm seeing right here. It's not a standstill picture, right? It's basically
360.
No, it's a 360-degree camera during the eclipse at high altitude.
okay. And can you spin around within it in a freeze time frame? Like,
Yeah, if you pause it there, I guess, series,
Yes.
and then pan around a bit, so then Arwyn could direct you what he wants to see.
no, I'd like to see the that thing above. Yes. Can you spin it around?
Spin. Oh. Not so.
Okay. All right. So it is fixed in its position within time at least, because that was a little bit unclear before.
Just the balloon. That.
I'm kind of wondering what I'm seeing here with those ropes. They seem to disappear within nothing. It's a bit weird.
Yeah, it's two 360s glued together. You have an
Yeah, but
upview.
I don't see the object that these ropes are actually attached to.
No, that's between the two cameras. I know. The horizon is actually blue.
Yeah, but
Um,
what is where is it tied to? I don't see it.
To the top of the bottom camera and to the bottom of the top camera.
Why don't I see those lines going down there? Not even a shadow.
Itself.
Sorry?
Well, because the cameras can't see themselves. There's a space between them. And that's where they are. But they see the same horizon. That's why
Okay, so they're not exactly at the same height. There's like a piece in between missing.
yeah, for what they can
Okay.
see.
Then it's not a perfect 360 camera. It's just a top half 360 and a bottom half that are slightly different.
It looks outwards in 360, but it can't see itself in 360. If you understand what I mean.
No, that doesn't explain at all why you don't see where the ropes are attached. Why you don't see that?
That's because they're attached to the camera.
Yeah, to the lens.
Yeah, that's maybe 5 centimeters distance of the object itself.
But why do I see right through it where it's supposedly attached then?
That's where they glue the bottom and the top camera together. There are two lenses or two spheres.
Two half spheres. Yeah, okay, but that's what I said. So it's not a perfect 360 vision, because otherwise you would see what is in between there.
Other than what is actually caught in the lens.
Yeah, it's two 180s. There's a 180s,
Yeah, exactly.
180 pointing down, 180 pointing
An
up.
up dome and a down dome.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, that explains it.
And then you see the blue point at the top. Yeah, for the bottom.
How high up is this?
What?
How high up is this?
No idea.
I could check the specs of the video again. I think this one might have went as high as 75,000 or 80,000 feet.
Wow.
50,000.
So 50 or 70,000, 70,000, yeah. Yeah.
Well, 36,000 is 7 miles, and that's twice. It's about 14 miles up. 15 miles up. Can I ask you something? Why is that like the dot of the sun? Why is it moving around like that?
Oh, that's 5 kilometers only. That much.
Why is it moving around? Well, probably because the balloon is rotating.
Yeah. I can try to keep it still.
Must admit, those ropes like that do look a bit funny, don't they?
Where is the sun, really? Because you see this dot reflected in there, but I don't see the actual sun there on the horizon.
Those are the
If you go back to the start, you can see where the sun is within that, right there. It never leaves that circle.
Yeah, but where is it outside of the reflection globe thing up there? Oh, it's on top of it. It's over there.
yeah,
Yes.
through the balloon.
Hmm.
Isn't sure whether the camera itself has got, or the one looking at us, there's some ice crystals on it. Sure that that's what that is.
Well, the surface of that thing does look like it is covered in ice crystals. That does kind of how crystallized ice, like how do you say that typical effect from going from a gas form directly into solid. That's kind of how it looks like. So
Can I ask you something? Why is it black around that circle? What's the black bit? Because that camera's inside something looking up. The whole thing doesn't look icy like. Why is it just there's a round bit at the top? One person in the, I think it was Wait the Sheepy, said, is that CGI?
well, refraction of blackness doesn't glitter that much. Like light tends to reflect a lot on surfaces, but if there's a lack of light, then you don't see the reflection parts of it. So that could explain why it's so black right now, because there's no light shining upon it, except for the dimly reflected light from the cameras from the object below it itself. But it is weird, like if the sun was above it as it was before, then it's really odd that it's not looking like that as it did before. It's almost like it disappeared. It's become almost like a small luminary or something. So it went out of, maybe it went out of range, basically, of where the light comes from, shining down in the same direction. Maybe it went over that point. So there's no longer any light shining down from this sun at this point. It's just the location now. Maybe that is it.
The only thing I have to say is that the dot is kind of moving around with the balloon moving around.
But definitely very interesting footage.
But the rest of it hasn't. When the camera's looking well, when you look down from the others, there's no crystals, is it? It's only when you look up at that bit at the top. So why would it only show crystals there? If there was crystals on the camera, why aren't they on the camera now?
Well, maybe because the camera glass is of a specific type that doesn't allow moisture to attach to it. There are cameras that prevent moisture from setting on it, I guess. Maybe.
I
You don't see everywhere crystals.
Well, with ice crystals, even it all depends if the moisture can set, if it can find surface to attach itself to, even as moisture. If it is hydrophobic, the glass is hydrophobic, then it won't settle on it. It won't be able to crystallize on it because it can't touch it. So I guess that the balloon or whatever that is floating above there isn't hydrophobic, and the camera glass is. That's all I can say about it.
Stop turning. Well, huh? It's like they're disappearing from the ground.
But in this shot, you can clearly see that the sun is shining on one side. It's over there at the horizon.
On all sides.
On all sides, really?
It's a particular circle.
How is that possible?
Dark.
Was this lit up in a eclipse zone during the eclipse?
This is in the middle of the eclipse. Why would you see the eclipse when you record the eclipse? You're in the shadow area.
Okay, so this balloon was specifically lit up in the eclipse area.
Yeah.
Okay, special.
I wonder what people in the chat room thought about this. You never usually work it out. You just have more questions.
Yeah. Another one.
Oh, well, we've shown a couple of videos today. Is there any more videos to come out? Has anybody else in the chat room got any eclipse videos to show? He's very interested in that one, aren't you, Chris? You want to do something about it, so we'll do that at another time.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, this is one of the videos I was looking at. I'll be looking at as much 360 stuff as I can get my hands on, and analyzing photographs and stuff for the next week or two. So it's going to take a little time to prepare something that makes cohesive sense.
I'm mostly looking out for the airplane footage of the eclipse. Very curious to see that, because
Talked about
a
that
long
a little
time
bit.
ago there was this eclipse footage seen. I've seen it like even over a year ago of an airplane filming as the eclipse was happening. It was very remarkable because I also did see how planets that were there were also getting simultaneously eclipsed. Very curious if we're going to see that again. But it's only this one video that I saw that in, so just very curious if anything like that
I mean,
happened.
Alaska Flight 180, it was, yeah.
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 So that's what I'm looking out for most, like the high altitude footage of seeing the eclipse happen, basically.
How was that plane called?
Yeah, I took pictures.
Alaska Flight 180, I think, if my memory serves me correctly, yeah.
I got them on my computer.
Any more videos? Anybody want to share anything else? We've been going for nearly 3 hours now. If you know, like, if we want to hang out a little bit, it's up to everybody if they want to carry on for a little bit longer.
Sorry, I'm a little dyslexic. It was Alaska Flight 870, not 18. 870 is the number if you want to go look for it. It's Alaska Flight 870. Yeah.
Did any of you see my last hangout?
No. Too busy.
Sorry, Ari, just really busy.
It's not that long. I definitely recommend it. It's the hangout in which I explain the only tangible explanation that I can find, the only model that I could figure out that could explain gravity as I know it.
Can we not talk about that subject right now? Because we've already sort of talked about that. We've already talked about that one, and we've got slight differences there. Gravity's not a word I think about much anymore. I just think it's stupid. Because, anyway, right now. But anyway, Arwyn's got a video. He's got a hangout out, and if everybody wants to go and watch Arwyn's, then I've put Arwyn's link in the hangout. So on the description, everybody can go and watch your video, Arwyn.
Thanks. What I'm basically trying to do with all this gravity stuff is I'm trying to take back the priesthoods, the heliocentric priesthoods tools to distort and blur our own observable and measurable sciences that have been twisted and that we're now figuring out the lies. But the problem is that if you take out everything all at once, instead of just taking out the specific lies, then you are left with less. That's why I say gravity is real, but gravitational pull is not. And gravitational pull is the heliocentrists' explanation as to why gravity works, and everybody latched onto that. But that doesn't mean that just because gravitational pull is a lie and proven not to be real, that gravity itself, which is quite measurable, it's not measurable as a force, but it's measurable as a constant, as a consequence. It doesn't mean that that doesn't exist. It's just a step back. You have to take a step back to figure out what is this mysterious element in this world. And that's what I try to focus on.
Okay then, Arwyn, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So we've been going for nearly 3 hours now. Judith, have you got anything to say? What about you, Patricia? Patricia, you've been very quiet today.
I thought I'd said quite a bit today. No, I'm going to get off in a minute anyway.
You're so funny, Patricia. You did before the hangout. You said more then.
Oh, was it before the hangout?
Yeah.
It was about the video, weren't it?
Yeah.
Was that
which
anyway?
Oh yeah.
Never mind.
You were talking a little bit in that. We just haven't heard from you for a while then. But anyway, yeah. So, anything to say, because we're probably finishing in a moment.
Just that it's been very interesting tonight, as always, and I'm just wondering when the eclipse and the moon thing is going to sort of phase out. But I hope it doesn't, because I think it's something that we really need to do is re-study pictures. I know there's camera flaws and things like that, but we really need to keep looking at stuff, because one day we'll probably work it out. Well, I know we will. And anyway, like I said, it's been a really good hangout. And just to say, I love you all, and I'm going to get off.
We love you. We love you too, Patricia.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, my darling.
Everyone. Or good afternoon, or good evening, whatever
Or good
it is.
morning.
Oh yeah.
Thank you, Patricia, my darling.
All right.
Judith, have you got anything to say? To add to anything?
Yes, I like to say something about the gravity. Yeah, Harvin, you said correctly. You said the gravity have two meaning, one bad meaning and one a good meaning.
Yes,
And
gravitational pull is a lie.
yes,
Gravity is
yes. But you have to remember, because you are awakening, I don't want to confuse the people who awakening right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to use this word because they are going to the bad meaning, you see. So it's not serve me.
Okay, that's
So
fine.
that's why I don't want to use this word. Yeah,
That's fine. I've
yeah.
made a specific
Are you agree? Are
task for
you
myself
agree?
to
Alvin, are
mention
you
it every
agree?
time, to mention the difference, to
Yeah,
basically tear
between
it apart again as it should be, and
yeah.
take away the gravitational pull from the gravity.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with this, to accept this. Yes, this is good between, but the people who doesn't know, they are going to the bad meaning. Are you agree with me about
Well,
this?
if you look at my hangout where I first started to discuss gravity, it's
Uh,
called Gravity Exists, Gravitational Pull Does Not. I had pretty much the biggest response I've ever had to a hangout. And yes, a lot of Globers dived right onto there and just started to completely misinterpret everything I said. So yeah, it is mostly
In
a
your model, just
psychological
a
problem.
question there. In your model and idea of gravity, in which direction does it act?
Down.
And only in one direction?
Well, no. It's not even what it does, if you want to explain it theoretically perfectly, is it's not a force, so it's not pulling something down, it's not pushing something down. What it does is it determines how matter divides. The heavy moves down, the light moves up in relation to the matter around it. That's what it does. It's the setting. And there's a specific speed and ratio as to how it does this. And that is the falling effect, basically, that we can deduce the 9.8 meters per second squared minus friction. And that is just what it is. What causes it, I have no idea. There's only speculation. I have one model that could be an explanation as to what it could be physically, but it's far from perfect. So, and
Well,
that's the wheel.
so far I figured out of Ken Wheeler's words that it is actually a sort of shadow, and you're describing a lack of something instead of actually the actual force causing the lack of something.
Well, I don't know how that fits in with gravity. I just know you can deduce its effects by how matter responds by experimentation. And that is how it is deduced. So you could argue that it's not even something, it's just a measuring tool to measure how matter functions.
So what would be the experimentational proof that it exists?
Everything is. Heavy things drop down, light things move up.
So mass density ratio.
It is the factor that causes the matter to divide in two directions.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay then. Are we gonna come back for a group hug? I think we're gonna end the hangout today because we were on a very late hangout last night Me, Chris' series with Santos. I think, what time did it finish? About 4 o'clock in the morning for us. It's about 5 o'clock for series. So we're a little bit tired today, but it was all good stuff. Santos. Oh dear, look a bit of a mess. Sorry, I've got my dressing gown on. Sorry about that. Anyway, Chris, Judith, do you want to come back for a hug? Judith. There's Judith. Chris coming back? There's Chris.
Get the fancy hat off.
Yeah, we didn't have very much music tonight from you, Chris.
I don't always need music. Yeah.
I don't know. I've gone black. There I am. Anyway, thank you everybody for watching in the chat room. It's been very interesting talk. Not sure about the gravity thing, but let's not go there because I'm not sure about that thing. Anyway, thank you, Arwijn. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Series. Thank you, Judith. And thank you, Patricia. And now we're going to have a group hug. Group hug. And we will be back tomorrow night. So thank you again.
Thank you all.
Learn about the gravity, guys. Learn about it.
Tomorrow. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for being there.